Last hour, Missouri executed a death row inmate named Marcellus Williams by lethal injection. Now, Williams was put to death over the 1998 murder of newspaper reporter Felicia Gale, and the execution coming hours after the U.S. Supreme Court denied a stay of execution just a day after the state's governor and the Supreme Court both denied clemency to Williams as well. And all this after a prosecutor from the original trial said Williams was innocent, claiming no evidence actually tied him to the crime. Williams' execution was one of 5 scheduled in the course of a week across the country, the first one being Freddie Owens in South Carolina this past Friday. NBC's Yasmin Vasugian has been following this story. Yasmin, can you tell us the latest here?
That's right, Gotti. The third in Missouri this year, the 100th execution in the state since executions were reinstated back in 1989. 5, by the way, in this week alone across the country. We're talking about Missouri, in which Mr. Williams was executed just a couple of hours ago by lethal injection. Alabama as well, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas. The timing of it all, right? You ask, why are all 5 of these executions happening in this week alone, is really just happenstance in the decision-making process by some of these kind of state Supreme Courts. I will say, though, the argument that was being made by Mr. Williams' attorneys to the Supreme Court to, in fact, stay this execution was waiting to a decision till a decision was made by a similar case as they saw it that was going to be argued in front of the U.S. Supreme Court on October 9th. A statement that was made by the Innocence Project saying this, and I quote, "This closely resembles that of Richard Glossip, who remains on death row in Oklahoma because the state court similarly refused to accept the state's confession of error." If you remember, just yesterday, the state Supreme Court in Missouri essentially did not accept the prosecuting office's admission of possible error in Mr. Williams' case, hence why we are here today. Mr. Williams losing his life to execution by lethal injection just a couple of hours ago amidst a huge week of executions happening, Gotti, across this country.
YouTube family, this don't sit right with me. Marcellus Williams was executed. From what I'm reading online, it looks like there was no proof. They didn't have evidence. They didn't have DNA evidence. They didn't have undoubtable evidence to take this man's life. That's how I feel. Let me read this to you. I typed in Google, what was Marcellus Williams convicted of? In 2001, Williams was convicted of the murder of Felicia Gale, a former newspaper reporter and a social worker who was found stabbed to death in her home in 1998. During the trial, prosecutors said that Williams broke into her home on August 11th, 1998, noticed the shower running, and picked up a large butcher knife, proceeding to take her life and then robbing her for a laptop and some other goods. The proof that they have that he did this is allegedly he confessed to his girlfriend. The girlfriend of Marcellus Williams alleged that he said, yeah, I did it, it's done, and that she also saw the laptop. They do have physical evidence of the laptop. However, they got no physical evidence of him taking this woman's life. For one, he could have bought this laptop. Somebody could have came by his house and gave him the laptop. I'm not even saying that he's 100% innocent. What I'm saying is that we don't know that he's 100% guilty, and they took his life for this. Like, the state of Missouri is one of the last states to abolish slavery. Missouri still got some dark past, dark history, still a lot of racism in Missouri. A lot of things going on in Missouri that's questionable, bro. I'm not even gonna lie to you. This needs attention. This video is one of them ones that y'all need to share. We need to be making this, we need to be getting more people involved. Like, this could have been you, your brother, your mother, your sister, anybody black. This could have been anybody, really, anybody. If they could do that to the black man, they could do that to the brown man, they could even do it to the white man. They could do that to anybody. Now, I typed a couple other things in Google because I had a lot of questions. As I was typing in questions, these are some of the answers that I got from Google. Or these are some of the answers that I got on Reddit, Google, things of that sort. The reason why the state of Missouri is willing to execute an innocent man is because otherwise they'd have to pay him a settlement for wrongful imprisonment and then spend a ton of money re-examining all those cases that prosecutor touched. That makes perfect sense to me. That makes perfect sense to me. They had this man locked up all this time, sitting on death row. However, they don't have subsequent evidence to even convict. If you don't have DNA, they said they had DNA, but then they went back on it and said, okay, we can't use the DNA as evidence. But y'all still able to take the man's life, gave him a lethal injection. Let me read a couple more excerpts real quick. What was Marcellus Williams convicted of? Gail, who was 42, was in the shower the morning someone broke into her home on a private gated street. He entered the house through the front door after breaking a small window pane. Reaching inside, he unlocked the front door. Wearing a long purple t-shirt, Gail left the second floor bathroom and was walking downstairs when she encountered the killer on the stairway landing. At some point, she was stabbed 43 times with a kitchen knife taken from her home. So whoever committed this act is clearly disgusting, brutal, and deserves to be under the jail. Whoever did this, you know what I'm saying? I no doubt about it. Innocent woman taking a shower, leaving the shower and get stabbed to death 43 times and robbed. That ain't cool. Nobody's cool with that. Justice need to be served. But the fact that y'all couldn't prove that this man was actually guilty, he's the person who ran in her crib, stabbed her 43 times, but y'all took his life, gave him the lethal injection? Bro, listen to the aftermath of this, bro. This is what news anchors feel about this. This ain't just my opinion. This is the news anchors' opinion. They don't feel this was right. District attorneys don't think this is right. A lot of people feel this was wrongful and it was a miscarriage of justice.
Tonight, a Missouri man has been executed by the state, but a deeply unsettling question remains. Was Marcellus Williams innocent? He was accused of killing Felicia Gale in 1998, but a re-examination of evidence raised questions about whether he actually did it. After years of investigations and hearings, Missouri Governor Mike Parsons stepped in this year and ordered the execution to move forward. Now, that was despite prosecutors, Williams's family, and even the family of Gale pleading to spare Williams's life. Now, that did not happen. And tonight, a last-ditch appeal to the Supreme Court was rejected with the 6-3 vote falling along ideological lines. A devout, practicing Muslim, Williams' last words were, "All praise be to Allah in every situation." The man's last meal, chicken wings and tater tots. And at 7:01 p.m. Eastern Time tonight, Marcellus Williams was given the lethal injection of the sedative pentobarbital, and 9 minutes later, he was pronounced dead.
At one point, he appeared to wiggle his feet, which were underneath a white sheet that's pulled up to his neck, moved his head slightly. Then I could see his chest heaved about a half dozen times. I didn't see any movement after that.
The death penalty, ladies and gentlemen. Neither family spoke after the execution, but many people in the public did. Nearly 100 people protesting outside of the correctional facility even today. But the governor, through a spokesperson, well, they defended the execution.
No juror nor judge has ever found Williams' innocence claim to be credible. 2 decades of judicial proceedings and more than 15 judicial hearings upheld his guilty conviction. Thus, the order of execution has been carried out.
With me now, St. Louis prosecuting attorney Wesley Bell, who is also running for Congress. Wesley Bell, you and I have spoken in the past when there was a chance that they would stay the execution, a fancy way of saying to continue for time to investigate the possibility that he was in fact innocent. What is your reaction tonight knowing that that did not happen and he is now dead?
Justice, the interests of justice were not served. And as a prosecutor, as you know, as a former prosecutor, our job is not to get convictions, it's not to collect stats, it's to bring justice. And for us, for the folks that in my office, we're talking about folks who invested blood, sweat, and now tears to spare his life because it was the right thing to do. If there's the shadow of a doubt with respect to innocence or the integrity of a conviction, at the very least, that individual should not be executed. Obviously, this case predated me originally. And so there's, 20 plus years ago, but throughout the appellate process and now once we have had an opportunity, there have been opportunities for decisions to be made that should have resulted in Mr. Williams' life being spared, and the system failed him, it failed all of us.
You have to wonder why there was such a vested interest in the speed of this. After this was a murder from decades ago at this point in time, now that this was underway, why do you think there was the haste to do so, given your office said no, the victims' families said no, he was not asking to be released, he wanted time to investigate further and was even willing to plead guilty to lesser charges, which I might add, there were people who said, well, hold on, that must mean that he's probably guilty. What's your response to that?
What he was willing to agree to was called an Alford plea, as you know, which he is not pleading guilty to the charges. He's acknowledging that there's enough evidence to convict him. But that was really for us to be able to buy time to be able to investigate his claims of innocence because the execution date was set. If the execution date was stayed or just pushed back a few months to give us more time to investigate this matter, we may have been able to determine whether or not he was in fact innocent or not. But as you know, it's not just about innocence. It's also about the integrity of the conviction.
Right.
And there are serious, legitimate concerns about this conviction. And at the very least, he shouldn't be executed. That's what we're asking. This was not a dichotomy between execution or release. This was execution or life in prison without the possibility of parole. And then his team and they would have time to vet his claims of innocence. But now we're looking at a family who had to relive this again. Felicia Gale's family had to relive this all over again. And as the prosecutor, I can't look them in the eye and say the right person was punished because we don't know.
I'm gonna stop it there, man. If that don't concern you, if this right here, you hearing this, doesn't concern you and make you just feel like something ain't right, make you want to do something about it, then I don't know, man. But what I want to do is I want to send love and condolences to Gale's family, love and condolences to Marcelia's family. Everybody took a loss. It's a loss at the end of the day. But I will say, it's very interesting that Gale's family felt because there wasn't enough evidence, they didn't want him to die. They said they feel like the execution should be held up because there's no DNA evidence, there's no sufficient evidence. Even her family, who loves and lost her, said that. You know what I mean? Before I go, let me just quote this one more time, because this is in my head and it can't leave. This was quoted by a Reddit user and a Twitter user. The reason why the state of Missouri is willing to execute an innocent man is because otherwise they have to pay him in a settlement for wrongful imprisonment and then spend tons of money re-examining all the other cases the prosecutor touched. That makes perfect sense to me. I believe it. I'm gonna see y'all in the next one, man. I appreciate y'all for tapping in with me, watching the video up until this point. Y'all my hearts. I'm gone. Love. I'll see y'all in the next one.